So, Transformers, a Bumblebee movie. This is going to be a commentary on what I thought about the movie. So, I don't ramble off into a series of stream of consciousness thoughts here and there, musings and ramblings. Let's divide this commentary into three parts. The first part being what I thought about the story, the characters, and elements of the plot, and all that. Second part will be Easter eggs that I thought were significant in the movie for me personally. And third, I want to talk about the direction of what I think the direction of the Transformers franchise should be, how this movie fits into all of that, previous movies, and where it should go. So let's start off with the story. Boy, this movie was a love letter, a very, very nice, sweet love letter to the 80s, to the fanboys who grew up with the 80s with Transformers. I love the nostalgic feel of this movie. There was nostalgia everywhere. The cars, the fashion, the gadgets. Oh my god, the language. Now the story in all aspects, and what I really thought after watching the movie was this was a big slap in the face for Michael Bay. It's like less is truly more. And I know you've probably read a lot of reviews saying that less is more, but really, it's like when you're trying to impress a girl or trying to impress a man or a boy, you like somebody, sometimes you don't have to overdo it. It's great, with all the bells and whistles, you give flowers, chocolate candy, whatever. But sometimes it's the little things that really impresses someone, and that's how you make a first impression, good impression, and that's how you find somebody, impress somebody, whether be it a client, a boss, somebody you like, a crush, whatever. Sometimes less is more, and the way this story was told, it was very, very simple. There was not a lot of explosions and action, all that, to say the least. It was laid back. There were some moments that were tense. There were some moments that you felt like it was a break from all the tension. And really, what's interesting about the story, it was a story about friendship. And if I knew better, this movie could have been a Disney Marvel movie. I mean, the story about friendship, the central role of Bumblebee could have been anybody. Could have been a big giant robot. He could have been like an animal, or he could have been an alien being. He could have been another human being for all intents and purposes. He could be like a giant, an ogre, a mythical beast, or whatever, a dragon, a Harry Potter beast, or whatever. But the whole central crux of the movie was about a friendship between Charlie and somebody new, somebody who wasn't familiar, and who befriended him was very powerful. And it was that bond, that friendship that really took this movie, and that really moved this movie. And without that, the focus on that friendship, this movie would have been lost. And I think that's what's lacking in the Michael Bay films. Now, having said all that, I do appreciate what Michael Bay has done for the franchise. I mean, he's given us fantastic designs, some great action sequences. And without the Michael Bay films, it would probably be very difficult, or the appreciation for the Bumblebee movie wouldn't be this amazing, this great, or this emphatic if it weren't for the Michael Bay films. Now, treat it as a good thing or a bad thing, that's entirely up to you. But I reckon, Travis Knight was probably the director that Transformers fans have been waiting all along, because he told the Transformers story in one prequel movie, everything that a Transformers fanboy or fangirl would have wanted to see in a live action film. He did it because he did it through the eyes of somebody who was a big fan of Transformers. I mean, admitted, Michael Bay never knew anything about Transformers until he picked up the camera to direct Transformers, the movie, in 2007. And he did a rushed research on what Transformers were, and I thought that wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to the franchise. It wasn't fair to the fans. And Travis Knight wrote an amazing love letter to the fans, to the 80s, and it came, so it was very simple. Bad robots after a good robot, helped by a human. That's exactly what a Transformers movie should be. And the action sequences were there, fine, given all that, but they were just enough. It was like when you're eating a plate of dinner, they didn't overfill your plate, they didn't underfill it. It was just right. So, That was great. Now, talking about the characters, I thought Haley Steinfeld was amazing in the movie. Haley was meant for this role. She fit it perfectly. I love her. I wish we'd see her again in succeeding Transformers movies. We'll talk about that later in the third part. But I loved her portrayal of Charlie. She was great. And it kind of brought back some moments with Spike and Bumblebee and G1, but this was a more relaxed. It's a funnier tone. It was really just a good friend. She really loved Bumblebee, and Bumblebee loved her. They were really there was a very good bond. They made a bond, friendship that carried them through all this tribulations and all that. It was great. Now, John Cena, everybody was skeptic about this guy. For a while I thought, is this going to be crazy, like a Mark Wahlberg type of portrayal, that he's going to be a nuisance here and there? But it turns out that he was supposed to be the comic relief of the entire movie, not the buddy Mimo. Menno, what was his name? The Charlie's buddy, Menno, or he was funny too, but John Cena was a central comic relief for this movie, and I thought he did it nicely. He was such a cliche character that I thought it would be annoying, but it wasn't. He just became really funny because of how cliche he was, and I kept thinking more WWE stars were gonna pop up, but I thought he did a good job. It wasn't a spectacular, stellar, magnificent, Oscar-worthy job, but I thought it was great. I wasn't annoyed at all at his portrayal. So I thought that was great. I thought the characters were just right. The story was incredible, just told, and this is how a Transformers movie should be. Okay, on to the Easter eggs. I thought there were a ton of Easter eggs, from Betamax to cassette tapes, Walkman, Volkswagen Beetle. Everything 80s was here. They talked about the sitcoms, Alf. They talked about, hot dog on a stick, corn dogs. These fair in a carnival, the cars, everything 80s. But for me, a few Easter eggs were very poignant and significant. The first one was when Charlie, I'm sure everybody's already seen the movie, no need for spoiler warning, but if you haven't, spoiler warning. Okay, so Charlie was being dared to do a jump from a cliff, jump to the water. And who better to volunteer him than Bumblebee? Bumblebee slaps her behind with door and pushes her. And the song goes, "You've got to touch." That to me was probably the best Easter egg. I know there's another one at the end, but that to me was probably the best Easter egg in the entire film, because that was the director saying, I watched the 80s movie, I watched the cartoons, I'm a big fan of Transformers, and I'm letting you know that. That to me was absolutely spot on, classic. You got to touch. If you've not seen the 80s animated Transformers movie, oh my goodness, go get the DVD or whatever, go download it or somewhere. But that 1986 movie was amazing. You got to touch. That song was like the good guys winning song or something, like the refrain for the good guys, Hot Rod in particular. So that to me was the best Easter egg. Another Easter egg was at the end when Bumblebee says goodbye to Charlie, and then he turns from a Beetle, he scans a new one, a Camaro, and then he rides a highway, and alongside a truck, an Optimus Prime truck. It's not Optimus Prime, but it's the truck that Optimus Prime uses as an alt mode in the 80s. And that to me was like the director again saying, there's more to this than this movie. If we're going to make an Optimus Prime movie, you bet your ass we're going to do this. We're going to do everything right. And that to me felt great, because I knew with Travis Knight, the franchise was in very, very good hands. I know he's not wanting to do another Transformers movies anytime soon, but I do hope he stays on as the executive creative producer, what Michael Bay used to do. I hope he takes over those reins and have another fresh director do another Transform. That's all well and good. So that's another Easter egg. And probably another Easter egg that I don't know if a lot of people noticed was the action scenes when robots were fighting, particularly in the final battle between the two Decepticons, and Bumblebee was slugging it out with Dropkick, and you get to see a lot of action, yes, bashing here and there, but it's some Michael Bay-ish type of action, but it was toned down. And what was very significant was when one transformer throws the other one around like that, and the other one gets thrown and transforms into an alt mode and comes back, and then he throws the other one gets thrown off, transforms, and then comes back. That is classic G1 action. Oh my goodness. I was giddy in my seat. I was loving every bit of it. Bumblebee being thrown in and transformed to a Beetle and ramming back, and then Dropkick being thrown helicopter and ramming back. That is classic G1 action. I loved it. Oh, by the way, on a side note, Bumblebee, I mean, you've seen him in action in Revenge of the Fallen. Perhaps, to me, he was like that out of all the Michael Bay films. The Revenge of the Fallen, desert battle with Rampage and Ravage. That was Snake Eyes, full-on Snake Eyes Bumblebee, and I thought that was amazing. But here, oh my goodness, amp that up 10, 20 times. Bumblebee was the ultimate Decepticon killer. He massacred the Decepticons. He knew how to kill them. Blitzwing, Dropkick, and Shatter. Oh my goodness. I mean, you knew that this guy was bound to be a Prime. He could have been a Prime, and he was amazing back then. Okay, so that's about the significant Easter eggs that I know, and I guess I should mention the music. Final note on the Easter eggs. The music was amazing. A lot of 80s hits. I mean, I can appreciate it because I grew up in the 80s. If you grew up in the 90s, you're probably wondering what the music was all about. But I loved the music. And if you loved Guardians of the Galaxy, it was something like that. The way the songs were put in, it was just magic. Just hearing all those 80s songs, I absolutely loved it. Okay, final thing is where I think the direction of the franchise should go, or how does this connect with the existing movies. And the producers, the Bonaventura, Spielberg, and even the director Travis Snyder are saying this is not a reboot. Yeah, it's called a spade what a spade. It's called a spade a spade. It is, well, in all intents and purposes, it could be a reimagining. Reboot, fine. You don't have to destroy all of what Michael Bay has built. It could literally be a prequel, because in the end he does turn into a Camaro. But it is a good reimagining of the Transformers franchise. This is how it should have been told. And yeah, they said that, Optimus, in the end, Optimus Prime and the Autobots come, and then they do something, and then they go back to Cybertron, and Bumblebee's left behind to watch over Earth, and that's where the 2007 movie picks up. But here's my advice to Hasbro. Okay, Bumblebee was an amazing movie, and it is by a mile, leaps and bounds, great step forward for the franchise. If you're planning to do an Optimus Prime movie, a sequel to Bumblebee, whatever, Transformers Autobots or whatever, stick to the 80s. Make a movie out of the events that take place when Optimus Prime comes and meets Bumblebee in this movie, up to the point they leave, go back to Cybertron before the Transformers the movie in 2007. That entire period, 1980s to early part of 2000, there is a ton of time left there to do great movies of Transformers. And you know what? You're probably thinking, but what about Megatron? He's stuck in the ice. Well, you can always thaw him. In those succeeding movies, he's alive, fighting, and at the end of the whatever last movie before that takes place before 2007 Transformers movie, freeze him back again. I mean, you've obviously found it easy to explain away that last scene by saying that Optimus Prime just went back to Cybertron and then comes back and then goes back and comes back to Earth. You can always say that Megatron is going to be thawed. He's going to fight the Autobots in the succeeding movies from the 80s to the early 2000s. And then at the early part of 2000, Optimus Prime finishes him off and he gets frozen back into where he was in the Arctic. And all set in the whole world of Bayverse. You could do that, but please keep your succeeding movies in the 80s, because it's nice to have modern technology and all that, a more modern approach to Transformers and all, but Transformers was born in the 80s. It flourished in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and if you keep it in that period, you're going to make great movies, because that's the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot period of where the Transformers should have been in. And I thought it was an amazing thing that you time traveled, took us back to how it all began, and really, really, really wonderful execution. I hope Travis Knight does stay on board for succeeding Transformers movies. I hope they get more fresh writers, maybe another director, fine, but Travis Knight needs to stay. They need to keep the movies in the 80s to the 90s and just keep at it. Oh, one final thing, okay? In the opening sequence, you probably know what I'm talking about. Cybertron, the war on Cybertron. Excellent execution. It didn't look like a video game. You get to see Ratchet, RC, Brawn. Oh my goodness. From that moment on, the first few minutes of the movie, I was hooked. I knew the franchise was in good hands. And with that, I'd like to give the Bumblebee movie a 10 out of 10. If I could give it a 20 out of 20, 20 out of 10, or 100 out of 10, I would, but that's just too much exaggeration. 10 out of 10 will suffice. It's a great movie. Kids are gonna love it. There are a few boring parts, but all in all, there's something for the grown-ups, there's something for the kids. What a wonderful, wonderful fresh take on the Transformers movieverse. Thank you, Hasbro. Thank you, Paramount, De Bonaventura, Travis Knight. You guys are amazing. With that, I hope you enjoyed this little commentary, and till next time, thanks for watching.